Hello, fellow traders. TheRumpledOne coming to you on Monday, January the 9th. The year's 2023. Let's talk trading. TRO HL5 Revisited. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. I had a trader, actually a couple different traders, asking me about how to use TRO HL5. So I thought we would revisit the indicator and let you guys know what it does and how to use it. Okay, I already have it loaded on the chart. It's one of my defaults. This is what, when I do a new chart, this is what comes up. So I usually start out with these indicators. And I'll just turn it on. I turn off the false. And what happens is the default settings will plot today's high and low and then the previous session's high and low. In other words, so in this case, it's the daily. And you can see where price is. Reference to today's high and low, the current high and low, and yesterday's high and low. So you can see here we broke out of yesterday's high. And this is on the daily chart. And then of course, if you drop it down to say H1, it'll show the current H1 high and low, and then the previous H1 high and low. So let's go and take a look at the settings. So you can see here, indicator tag. If you want to put up more than one instance of TRO HL5, what you do is you load another instance and then you change this. So the second time you can set it to 1 or 100 or whatever, just so long as the indicator tag is different from the other TRO HL5s, then you won't have a problem. Then you can just put a my note. So in this case, it shows the high low for 2 bars with the current chart period. And that's just the note. You can put anything in there. Auto period. You know what? I don't even remember what that does. Let's see what it does. Just out of curiosity. I don't even remember what that one does. So as you can set, well, I'll have to look up the code and figure out what that does and come back and let you guys know. Show on all periods. True. So maybe you don't want to show this on a certain time frame, so then you just set it to false. And there might be another setting in there so it would know what periods to show on. So it might have to do with the my period. Let's just change this to H1 and see what happens. So we had show on all periods true. Let's see if I say show on all periods false. Yep, I'm definitely going to have to figure out what that does and report back. The my chart X and Y are the XY coordinates with the corner. So if you turn on the gauge, it'll tell you how far off the current high or low and the previous high or low the price is. So let's just go back here. Normally, I usually have this set to the day, 2 bars. Now, show lines true. If you don't want to see the lines, you can turn them off. Maybe you just want to have the gauge. And that's how that works. But normally, you probably want the lines on the chart. Now, show lines right. You'll do it this way, because sometimes people want to project into the future and see, okay, for whatever reason, some people like doing it like this. It's not one of my favorites, but I think somebody might have asked for that, or there might have been another reason, not sure why. Lines start at the bar, so this was the beginning of Friday, and this is the beginning of today. So you can see these lines start at the bar. Font size is and font size controls this. I usually don't mess with that. My display decimals, you can see here we've got 1 decimal. Maybe you don't like that. To show the points, this will just show. I can see I didn't update this to show decimals. I put this here because as a 1, because a lot of times when we're scalping, we really need to look at the points. Show gauge true, lines start at bar, show labels. Maybe you don't want to see the labels, you just want to see the lines. For whatever reason. And one of the reasons could be you could have multiple instances of HL5 up there, and then they start to overwrite each other. So on one of them, you can turn it off. Turn off those labels. And ditto for the price boxes. Sometimes you might not want to see the price boxes. You just want to see the lines. And you can, of course, either have the labels or not have the labels. Now, show level. This is kind of fun. Put the levels over here. Because sometimes if you're on your laptop and maybe you got to look at email or something, you can just leave this part open, and then you can see where price is and what price is doing. So here's price right here relative to these other markers. Sometimes I call it level. Sometimes I say show side markers. In fact, it might even say it has it in here twice because I forgot what level did, and I wound up putting it in there twice. So I left it in there because some people might have had levels set, and then all of a sudden they download the newest version and it would screw them up. Show volume. And you know what? I don't even remember about the volume. I have to go and look at the indicator. Like I said, this indicator was written a long time ago, even before 2016, but that's probably the last time I updated that section. It's got a lot more, and we're hardly into it. Show volume. put that back. So we can have the open and turn that on. We can show the close. We can show the midpoint. And they all come up. Of course, you can set the colors the way you want them. And this is probably going to have some part twos because we've only got about 4 minutes left. Show the midpoint. You can show the pivot. And there's the pivot point. And FPP is the future pivot point, meaning if the day were to close right now, this would be what the pivot is. This can help you determine which direction you want to trade, or if you're stuck in a trade and it's going against you and you think, okay, well, if it fades back to the pivot, I can get out, so that it can help you average in and pick a target. Also, if you're really into the pivots, you can show the pivot support and resistance lines. So here you have S1, S2, and actually this is also showing the midpoint and the top of the central pivot range here. I guess I turned those on. In there. Then you could also show the mid pivots, which would be like halfway between S1 and S2, R1 and R2, etc. So there's the mid. There's a mid pivot. So I think there was a mid pivot here. There's a mid pivot there. And this run goes all the way up to all the way down to S6 and all the way up to R6 on the pivots. So you can see it can get complicated pretty quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and reset it and then show a few other things. The pivot gridiron. But in order to show the pivot, in order to show the pivot gridiron, I do believe you have to have the pivots turned on. And then you can see the pivot gridiron. One of the things you can say, only show not crisscrossed. So if price is crisscrossed those levels, they don't show. So right now, this is the price that hasn't been crisscrossed. And let's just reset that again. And we're down to the last minute here. So I'm going to have to pick up where I left off on the HL5. And no, there isn't a PDF for this indicator. It would take me longer to write the PDF than it would than it did to write the code. So that's why I've made videos. And there's a bunch of HL5 videos out there. So if you can't wait for more, then go ahead and look at them. So fellow traders, just remember, it's only an indicator. And if you're looking for an indicator, that's not what you really need. You need to look in the mirror, because it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is TheRumpledOne, over and out.